Thank you so much. Thank you. Give me the little signal.
We are going to begin the funeral service for Mrs. Fay Fettner. We're going to ask the family that are here, if you have a cell phone, to please place it into silent mode or turn it completely off. We'd like to welcome everyone via live stream as well. Thank you. Services will be conducted by Rabbi Moshe Wolf.
Thank you, Peggy. Family, what we're going to do is I'm going to say some services, say a few words, and then we have the family that is going to speak and eulogize, and then we'll do some closing remarks. Then we'll all mom to find a resting place. So just to give you an idea, and I'll try to explain the customs as we go along. Adonai Nasan, V'Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevarach. The Lord has given, and the Lord has taken away. Praise be the name of the Lord. Kol Omekarav Amam Moekra, Kol Habasachar Tzir V'Chol Chazdoi Kitzitz Asadeh, Yavesh Chatzir Navel Tzitz Kiruach Adonai Noshvavoy, Achein Chatzir Am Yavesh Chatzir Navel Tzitz Udvar Alehinu Yakim Liolam. A voice says, cry out, and I say, what shall I cry? All flesh is grass, and all its beauty is like the flower of the field. The grass withers, the flower fades, when the wind of the Lord blows upon it. Surely the people are grass, the grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our God endures forever. And from Psalm 73, Kol Hash'eri Ulevavi, Tzur Levavi, V'chelko Alehim Liyolam. My flesh, my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart. He is my portion forever. And from Isaiah, Al tira ki imcha ani, al tisha keni Adonai Elohecha, imatzticha af azarticha, af timachticha b'mintzit ki. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, I will help you, I will sustain you with my power. The 23rd Psalm. I'm going to say it in Hebrew and then you can join me if you wish. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai roi lo yechsor, binos deshe yabitzeni, amei menuchos yinahaleni, nafshi yeshoive yancheni b'magle tzedek l'man shemo, gam ki elech b'geitz hamoves li'ira roki atoi modi, shiftecha mishantecha hema yinachmuni, taroich lefonai shulchan neget zoriroi, Gishanta b'shem roishi koisi ravoyoi, ach tov v'chesed yidufuni koyim echayoi, v'shafti b'veis Adonai li'orach yamim. Now we'll read from the pamphlet together if you wish. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Thy rod and thy staff do comfort me. Thou preparest the table before me in presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And from Ecclesiastes we pray, for everything there's a season, for every experience under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to uproot what is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from abasing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak. And even though we speak at this moment, it's really in silence, because when it comes to say goodbye to a loved one, what is there to say? Family and friends, we come here this morning to bid a final farewell to our beloved Mom, Bobby, Grandbobby, Fay Fettner, Fay Bas Moshe, devoted wife of the late Nachman, to the children, Mark, and his beloved wife, Marilyn, and to Rita, and her beloved husband, David, to Brian, Michelle, Brielle, and Ari, and if I mispronounce the name, please forgive me, or if I leave somebody out, please forgive me, to David and Ryan, and to their children, Nolan and Emerson, to Jonathan and Diane, their children, Seth, Julie, and Haley, to Jessica and Alex, Ella and Sydney, family and friends, and did I leave anybody out? If I do, I apologize. To me was given the difficult task to bid a final farewell to our beloved Faith, our beloved Bobby. And I say difficult because how do you sum up 97 beautiful years in just a few moments? Was it 98? See, I made a mistake already. Our sages tell us birth is involuntary and death is inevitable. And the test of life is how will one fare between those points of birth and death. Our sages also tell us who is a person that is worthy of honor, is a person who honors others. Who is a person who's worthy of our respect, is a person who respects others. And who is a person who's worthy of our love, is a person who loves others. And that was our Bobby. She was honored, loved, and respected because that's how she treated others. The family is going to speak about their relationship with her, but I need to make special mention at this moment of the beautiful, beautiful relationship that she had with her children and her grandchildren, and the love, Rita, that you and that Mark says you say him, but we both know that a person can't be the person that they are without the love and the support of their spouses. And you could have not been the woman who you are without David's love, and you could have not done what you did without your full support for Mark and the love that you got for Marilyn. And where did you pick it up? Mark, where did you pick it up? From what you saw from Mom, the way she conducted her life. The love that she showed everybody. The love that she showed her children. I had the pleasure of meeting her many, 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 many occasions. And all she spoke about was her children and her grandchildren. And I didn't see her of late, otherwise she'd been talking about the great-grandchildren. And she was always put together. She lived life, she loved life. I'll let the children continue on that. But I just wanted to say, if Mom could get up and speak, she would say, thank you, Mark, for being the people that you are and the nachas you gave her. And she considered you, David, like her own son, and Marilyn, you were her own daughter. And that's because of the way you treated her, and the way you conducted yourself, And not a day went by that I spoke to David and he would tell me, Rita's taking care of mom. Always worried about how mom is doing. So if mom can get up and speak, she would just say, thank you for the love. Thank you for adding life to her years and years to her life. There's plenty of more for me to say, but I'm going to let the children continue, and then I will have my closing remarks. So without any further ado, Mark. Just like this. Please.
So, the rabbi tells us that we cannot eulogize our mother today, but we'll give you some information about our mother and praise her. So, our mother, I believe, is the epitome of what motherhood should be. Was not your typical mother that you envision today as the young mothers taking the kids to play dates or taking the kids to school or taking the kids to events. She was a person, though, who actually mothered us a lot, based on where she came from and based on what she was capable of doing with all of her heart. So my mother obviously was a survivor of the Holocaust. She grew up in a certain environment, a loving environment, and then the war broke that up. And when she finally had her own kids and became a mother, she managed to bring us up in such a way that we did enjoy all of the same things that kids today enjoy. For example, she made sure that we had music lessons, ballet lessons, we had accordion lessons, violin lessons, piano lessons, even ballet lessons. Even I had to take ballet, if you can imagine that. And my sister Rita had to take ballet. So you should see both of us in tights and tutus around the house. Obviously, my mother had to work and help my father try to make a living so that we can realize the dream, the American dream that was available to us. And she was working, but yet she made sure that we understood what is right and what is wrong. And although she wasn't present with us 24/7 because she was working a lot, she made it understood that we had to take care of each other while she was working. As we got older, the mothering that she did continued until the last days of her life. She was always in a position where she mothered us in a sense of saying, this is what you should look like. You should get a haircut. You should put on makeup. She was always instructing us in a motherly way, as mothers do. I mean, I'm 72 and Rita is a little bit younger than me. 25. But she never stopped being a mother. I mean, to the very end, she if I missed a call or did not call her for a couple of days, I heard about it. As a mother would scold her child. You didn't call me. You need to call me. Did you buy some new clothes? Are you wearing a jacket? Is it too cold for you to be outside without a jacket?
What did you eat?
What did you? Yes. So she was a mother till the last few days. As a matter of fact, just before she died, she made a point of calling me and tell me that I may die in the next day or two. I'd like you to come in and be with me. So, as a mother, we always felt that she was great. We were annoyed with her at times because she was too much to the point, telling us what to do and what not to do, to our 60s and 70s. But she was a great lady, and she produced quite a family of 15 human beings who are great. All of them are great in their own right. From her grandchildren to her great-grandchildren. And yes, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think she felt that one of her biggest accomplishments was the relationship that I had with my brother. There was always, first and foremost in her mind, that we always remained close, and she was very proud of that.
Those were her, not her last words, but those were statements that she made throughout the past year. How happy she was, and we should always remain close to each other. And I think that kind of thing I would like to tell my kids and my grandkids, that they should always be close to their siblings.
And my children.
Just the way Vida and I are or were, even though we sometimes fought like cats and dogs. And
and we always had lunch afterwards.
After we had our little arguments, we always had lunch. That is correct. So that was my mother, and she always will be. Thank you.
We loved her very much, and we still love her.
Yes.
And always will.
Yes. And I particularly, even though this is information regarding my mother, I would like to thank my sister, because my sister really took care of my mother for the past number of years, and I think we couldn't have had her that long without my sister's help.
That was beautiful. Just for the record, Rita, Mark, you make your mom proud. God bless you. David, ready when you are? It says Maryland. I apologize. It's hard to find good help.
I know, you're in trouble when I have a list. Can I be heard okay without taking off the mask? Yeah. Let me take it off. So, I was sitting in my office Friday, trying to catch up on some work. It was 1:46 in the afternoon, and I realized that I already missed her. I think everyone who's known Fay knows she was one tough lady. And I think everyone also knows that the vast love and generosity in her heart far outweighed her toughness. In almost every conversation I've had with Fay, she's reminded me, Marilyn, I've known you since you were a child, 15 years old, and I think of you as one of my own children, no different. While this made me feel very warm and protected, it also made me very aware that I really had to stay on my toes. When I think back on the nearly 54 years I've known Fay, what floats to my mind is what I've learned from her about life. And I want to share these lessons with you. Number one, don't take anything for granted. Fay told me that she hadn't ever wanted to talk about her experience during the Holocaust. But when I had a school assignment to interview someone who had overcome a tremendous hardship, I thought of Fay. And she offered to share a few stories with me. One of these was about how she had been running and hiding for what seemed like weeks. She came upon a work camp for gypsies and other non-Jews viewed as outcasts by the Nazis. Somehow, she managed to fake it as a shiksa and survive incognito in the work camp. The conditions were harsh. She worked nearly day and night. She ate scraps, slept on rags. There was no soap and barely time allowed to rinse in a nearby river. This particular story has stirred a memory I have of when David and Brian would sleep over at Fay and Norman's. And Fay would frequently make a point of telling me how clean she had made everything for them. The sheets are clean, the pillowcases are clean, everything is clean, clean, she would say. Well, as a middle-class American who didn't grow up with much hardship, I never understood why Fay had always emphasized how clean everything was. I had always assumed everything would be clean. But I learned that having things like soap, clean sheets, and pillowcases in a bed should never be taken for granted. Number 2, have faith. When the Nazis invaded her small town, 17-year-old Fay became separated from her family. She was completely alone. Frantically running until her legs could no longer move, she came upon an abandoned house. Taking shelter there for the night, she was shaking with fear, not knowing which direction would be safe to go when she left the house in the morning. Finally falling asleep, she dreamt of her mother, who told her in the dream which way would be safe to go. Fay recalled, "I didn't really believe in visions coming to you in dreams, but I believed my mother. I ran in the direction she told me and I was safe. My mother saved my life. I learned that when I feel overtaken by fear, I need to remember to trust in faith." Number 3, never give up. It may sound like a cliche, but Fay lived this. Never giving up wasn't only about surviving the Holocaust for Fay. After living in America for a while and taking whatever odd job she could to help support the family, she thought about becoming a hairstylist. However, as a child, school had been hard for Fay, and when she realized that she'd have to learn some anatomy and pass a test, she didn't believe she could do it. But Fay told me that Norman was a huge source of encouragement for her. He told her to keep trying and she would accomplish it. She didn't give up, and with his encouragement, she became a businesswoman, and she founded Fay's Whore House. Whore means hair, among other things, though. So I learned that when self-doubt creeps in, find support and keep trying. Number 4. When I told Mark this one, he laughed. Save your pennies. I remember Fay saying when she and Norman came to America, they saved every penny. They wouldn't even buy a newspaper, which was only about 7 cents in 1960. And of course, those pennies paid off for them. I'm still learning to try to save my pennies. Number 5, laugh often. We talked about this yesterday. Fay had a tremendous sense of humor, which could at times be a bit bawdy and even a bit stinging, but always very clever. We were gifted with her humor being present and active even in her last week of consciousness. I'm continuing to learn to laugh as much as and often as I can. Maybe that's one of Fay's secrets to a long life. Number 6, how to cook the very best chicken soup. Many years ago, in preparation for a Pesach dinner, I asked Fay to teach me how to cook her chicken soup. She told me what to buy and came to my house for my lesson. One of the secrets I wanted to learn was how she achieved such a very clear broth. Little did I know I was about to find out when she told me to get a needle and thread. I watched as she formed the dill into a ball and stitched it all together, which kept the pieces from falling into the broth. I learned how to cook the very best chicken soup, but I haven't yet perfected actually doing it. Number 7, fight if you have to for what you need and believe, and always forgive and forget after a fight. By the way, fighting, forgiving, and forgetting for Fay was all done pretty much simultaneously. She had perfected this skill and modeled it often. It's taken me years to learn this, and I'm still working on it. Number 8. Show that you care. Emphasis on show. I think Fay believed that it isn't enough to care because she made a point of showing that she cared. When my mother was in the hospital with her first heart attack, I remember standing next to her bed in the emergency room. when I noticed Fay and Norman practically jogging down the hall. They had a frantic expression on their faces. They were so worried about my mother, and they cared so much about how she was doing that they stopped whatever they had been doing and ran immediately to the hospital. I still remember the expressions on their face. I think you all know that I've had 2 hip replacements. I'll dance for you later. She always came to visit me in rehab. Rita, thank you. My last hip replacement was in 2018. I remember sitting in my bed feeling sorry for myself. And in comes Fay with Rita. Fay with her walker. And at that point, she's already feeling her age even more. But she came to me, asked me how I'm feeling. I was so touched that I started sobbing. Although I do care, I don't think I always take actions to show how much I care. Fay has taught me how meaningful and important it is to show the people you love how much you care. And number 9, always, always wear lipstick and jewelry. Always be put together. When my mother was alive, she, Fay, Rita, and I used to joke that Rita was more like my mother because they preferred casual, no frills dressing. And Fay and I enjoyed putting on a little more of the glitz and dressing up a bit. Although I naturally enjoyed some glitz, learning from Fay has influenced me to be even more conscious of trying to be put together. But she was the master. It's been a heartfelt privilege to share this with you. By the way, I never got my work done that afternoon. I was overtaken by my thoughts, feelings, and memories about Fay. Having known her for 54 years, there are of course many memories. And I look forward to more of them washing across my mind and continuing to remind me of the remarkable woman who was Fay.
Brother David?
Well, this last December, as far as we know, Fay celebrated her 98th birthday. And we sent her, as a group, a beautiful bouquet of flowers. And this is the card that we included. To our dearest mom, Bubby, and great Bubby, Fagel. You know I get emotional with these things. This gift of flowers is a very small token of the appreciation that your family holds for you. We have all been blessed to have you in our lives. How fortunate we are that a woman who has spent her entire life giving of herself so that her family could be given all the comforts she could provide. You are so important to the happiness, growth, and unity of this family. Who you are has inspired us to act as better people. The most important thing is one's legacy that they pass on to their children and grandchildren. It is not money or material things, but a legacy of good character and a good heart. You, our dear mother, have both in abundance. We love you. Have a wonderful and happy 98th birthday. Signed, Mark, Marilyn, Rita and David, Jonathan and Diane, Jessica and Sandy, David and Brian, Brian and Michelle, Emerson, Nolan, Brielle, Ari, Julia, sorry, Jules, Julia, Haley, Seth, Ella and Sydney, December 14th, 2020. Well, we're gathered here today to honor Fay aka Bubby, aka Fagel, aka Bubby Hay, aka Mom. Mark and Marilyn, as well as Rita and I, sitting with Simcha, the gentleman from Chicago Jewish Funerals, as we were deciding how the obituary should read for my mother-in-law. Mark said, and I quote, "Say she kicked Hitler in the balls." "I don't think the Trib will print that," said Simcha. Fay lived to a ripe old age of 98, or 97, or 96. We're not really sure. It was one of those. I'm going to go with 98. She was like a fine wine. The older she got, the more her value went up. She was the matriarch of the family. As most of you know, we lost my parents and Rita's father, Norman, many years ago. All Holocaust survivors. Fay was the lone holdout. This was a woman who would never quit, and her spirit was amazing. She loved life and would have stuck around longer if the good Lord would have only allowed it. She loved her Moishe and Rita and Marilyn and me, but her grandchildren and great-grandchildren, they were her life's pleasure. David, Brian, Jonathan, and Jessica, you gave her 9 great-grandchildren. She loved and cherished each and every one of them. Having lost most of her family in the Holocaust, the rebirth of the following generations meant that much more to her. It meant that Hitler tried to kill her as well, but through pure grit and determination to survive, she caused him to fail. Her survival allowed her to bring 15 more Jewish souls into this world that might not otherwise be here today. She, metaphorically of course, did kick Hitler in the balls. I could go on and on about Fagel, which is what I called her, by the way. I know there are others here today who want to speak, but I have 41 years of history with this beautiful woman. I wanted to mention just a few things as I sat down to write this, like how she wouldn't dare, and Marilyn, you touched on most of that stuff here. I'll forgive you for stealing some of my thunder, too. Like how she would not dare step out of the house without makeup and jewelry. God knows you might run into someone, and they should see me without makeup. Never. How when I walked into her home and getting my hair cut too short, and she would say, "Why so short? Your head looks like a tochus." And she'd start to laugh at my expense, but I laughed right along with her. How many times she told the story of when Rita and I were dating, and yet her old boyfriend would call the house, and she'd tell him not to call anymore. She would say, "Rita's getting married, stop calling her." Now, of course, I hadn't proposed yet. But she was a smart cookie, and she could sense that I was the one for Rita. I was Jewish, understood Yiddish, and my parents were greeners, which is another word for survivors. That was good enough. That's all the qualifications I needed. I was perfect. Apparently she was right. As I said, she was a pretty smart cookie, and it's 41 years later. Right, honey?
Yes. Mother knows best.
Mother knew best, you know. I could go for hours, but I'm going to end with talking about Fay's entrepreneurship. You see, as a young woman, Fay ran a whorehouse. It's all in our minds, right? She ran a whorehouse. Yes, a whorehouse, not the kind of whorehouse you're thinking. Fay was a beautician back in the day when they lived in a modest 2-flat in Rogers Park, and she set up a beauty shop in her basement where she would take in all the Yiddish-speaking ladies in the neighborhood. Now, here in Yiddish is whore. So she dubbed her little operation Fay's Whorehouse. Of course, she egged on the husbands who came to pick up their wives and asked them, "Hey, you look like you could use a little trim." They all got the joke and everyone had a good laugh. Fay did know how to laugh and enjoy life. She had a real wicked sense of humor. Told you I included wicked sense of humor. I loved her and I miss her. There's another thing I need to mention. Fay, when married to Norman, depended on him for most everything. When he passed, that baton was handed over to Rita. Another one of Mark's wisdoms, paying attention, Mark, is that he would say he had a prayer rug alongside his bed, and every morning as he got up, he would kneel down and pray to the good Lord for his sister, who took such good care of his mother that he didn't have to do very much. Rita doted on her mother. She was the dutiful daughter and called her mother at least 6 times a day, if not more. I always felt that Fay was the luckiest woman in the world to have a daughter like Rita. And of course, everyone here knows I'm not exaggerating. Thank you, Rita. Fay lived a good life, and that's a tribute to you. Rita and Fay had a mother-daughter relationship for sure, but they were also best friends. They kibitzed and chatted with each other constantly. Fay was Rita's rock and Rita was hers. Fay loved that Rita and Mark were so close. She treasured family and wanted everyone to just love one another. That love started with her and filtered down to the rest of us. She felt fortunate that she lived long enough to see all her grandchildren get married and attend their weddings, but that she also lived long enough to have 9 great-grandchildren. This last year of her life was certainly a difficult one. Thank God for FaceTime and smartphones so that at least we could see and hear her when not able to visit. The highlight for Fay, of course, was when she could see her grand and great-grandchildren. She would light up, and you could see the sparkle in her eye. "Mamale," she would say it to the phone. She couldn't get enough of them. When with her, I would play Yiddish music on my phone. And she also loved to sing along. Her favorite was My Yiddish Mama. And she certainly was our Yiddish Mama.
Beautiful. Jonathan?
My memories of my Bubby Fay are special, and they're rich, because I was lucky. I grew up with grandparents in my life, and they were there for me at every turn. My baseball games, school activities, you name it. You know, it's not lost on me that my parents didn't experience what it was like to have grandparents. I was fortunate. And Bubby Fay, for me, she was larger than life. And she still is. When I think about Bubby Fay, I think about my childhood, who I am now as an adult. She taught me a lot of life lessons, and I'll start with an example. Maybe a silly one, but it's one we laughed about. And I appreciate what everybody has said so far about her laughter, because we laughed together a lot, and that was important. So the one that made us laugh for many years, frequently, was about a story where I was maybe 5, 6 years old. And maybe I'd occasionally pick my nose and decide I was going to eat it. I was a booger eater. until Bobby Fay got involved. Because that was not very proper. And Bobby told me that when I picked those boogers that end up in my stomach, worms would grow. And they would spread throughout my stomach. And I must say, as a 5-year-old, that was terrifying. But guess what? It worked. I stopped doing it. And you know what? For years and years and years, she's told everyone that story, and we've shared it together many, many times, and we've laughed. But it was just one of many examples of moments we've had together. And on a more serious side, my absolute favorite memories from my childhood were our trips to Florida. You know, I'll always remember pulling up to Bubby and Zadie's condo in Hallandale after 2 days of driving. And man, I bet they were sitting out there for an hour or two waiting for us. You know, they were right outside waiting when we pulled up. And we jumped out of the car. And it felt like we were home. You know, before we knew it, all of us, everybody here, was in that 1-bedroom apartment. And it smelled like chicken soup. And we'd be fighting over sheets or blankets to find the nook on the floor we were going to sleep on. But you know what? It never felt crowded. Not for a second. It just felt like we were being taken care of. And that's how I always felt with Puppy. Cared for, loved, and I know that's true for everyone here. So I want to recognize a few different relationships that Bobby had. One, and I know this has been mentioned, but she really did have an amazing bond with my mom. And I know everybody has discussed all the things that my mom has done. She's done amazing things for Bobby, and they took care of each other. That's what I learned to realize over the years. It went both ways, especially over the last few years when my mom gave Bobby a lot of her strength. Even when things are tough, it was just so clear that they were partners. They were teammates, friends. You know, Bobby's love also extended in my adulthood to my wife Diane and to Diane's family, who she welcomed so lovingly. My kids, Julia, who's here, Haley and Seth, she had a connection to them, and you know, this has been said so far, or once before. My dad mentioned it. It's kind of silly, but when Julia was young, she couldn't pronounce Bubby Fay, so she started calling her Bubby Hay, and it's really connected. In fact, it became something that Julia and Bubby always bonded over, and they had a connection, and it extended to Haley as well. You know, with Seth, you know, I'm sad he didn't get to spend more time with her, but at the same time, I am comforted because I knew she felt a strong connection with him. She had a nickname for him. She called him the Reuter, which means the redhead, I believe, in Yiddish. And we laughed every time we talked about it. And she, you know, brought her so much joy and smiles. And, you know, I'm really grateful because the Saturday before she passed, we were on FaceTime. You know, it was, yeah, in retrospect, I had no idea it'd be the last time we really connected. But it was me and my son Seth and Bubby, and we got on the phone and we smiled and we laughed, and she was sharp as can be. And we had that moment together. And it's really meaningful. And Seth blew her a kiss, and she said she loved us. And I'm very grateful for that. So, I want to say from myself, from my wife, Diane, from my kids, to our Bobby Fay, Bubby Hay, we love you, we miss you. You'll always be with us.
I have the privilege and honor to read a beautiful message for Bubby from my sister-in-law. Jessie was here holding Bubby's hand the last week of her life. We love you very much. So these are Jessie's beautiful words. I have been reflecting a lot on Bubby's life and what it meant to me to be her granddaughter. How Bubby and all of my grandparents shaped who I am today. Why, when I heard on Sunday that Bubby was not waking up, I could not fathom being anywhere but by her bedside. Why, when hearing that she was terminally ill just a week or so earlier, I promptly booked a flight for the weekend of April 2nd so I could spend quality time with her before she was too sick to sit and talk. I wanted that time with her so badly. As I stare at a picture of Bubby at a family photo shoot a few years ago, surrounded by all of her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, the answer is clear. I think I can safely speak to the rest of those in the photo when I say she was our everything, our matriarch. She and Zadie survived the Holocaust and had to start their lives with nothing. But they made it. What strength they had. Bubby's strength is what I see in that picture. But I don't see her suffering. I see her joy. Her life, despite all of the unimaginable hardships she had to overcome, was joyous. She was so in love with Zadie, had wonderful friends, a great social life, a loving family. She loved each of us so fiercely. How could I not return her love and her joy with that same fierceness? How could I not have those last moments with her? As I reflect, the amazing thing about my love for my Bubby was all of my grandparents is that I never stopped to fully understand what the relationship between a grandparent and a grandchild means. Not until recently, when I could see that relationship play out between my girls and their Bubby and Zadie. Wow. The joy my kids have when they are with their grandparents. I get that. The love that is so evident between them. I get that. The way my parents love my kids so completely that simply being in their presence seems to bring pure joy. They are connected in a way that is beyond the words I can express. But it is a connection I know and recognize because I had that too. As a family, we didn't know the generation that came before Bubby Fay and Zadie Norman. So in some ways, it feels like they started it all. They laid a foundation for this family that is unbreakable. They set the bar for what our love and commitment to one another should be. And I think our family has done a pretty good job of honoring their example. Certainly, Mom and Dad, you have done that with Sydney and Ella. That's the legacy Bubby and Zadie left for our family. That is what I'm holding with me today and always. Now for a few key memories in no particular order. 1. All of my friends called her Bubby. Jewish or not, she seemed to be everyone's Bubby. She had such a wonderful presence that everyone who knew her could sense. She taught me to play poker at a very young age with a jar of pennies she and Zadie kept to use as chips. I vividly remember her waiting outside her door as we got off the elevator to visit her in Skokie and in Florida. Every time she would be there watching to come down the hall, excited for our visit. She could not look at the camera when taking a picture. She was too busy looking lovingly towards her kids or grandkids, whoever was posing with her at the time. And 5, she had an amazing sense of humor. I won't repeat all of her jokes because they probably wouldn't be appropriate for this setting. But let's just say, maybe we shouldn't be so surprised how Mark turned out. Jesse, I hope I did that service. Bubby, I just wanted to say thank you so much for welcoming me and my family, including my siblings, my parents, and my grandma, Bea and Ethel, into your beautiful mishpacha. Your beautiful spirit, steadfast determination, persistence, perseverance, strength, we will celebrate and remember, and we will carry your legacy forward. Your life is a blessing, and we love you so much. So on behalf of myself, Yoni, Julia, Haley, and Seth, the Reuter, we love you very much. Mwah.
Not to cut anybody short, we still have 3 more short speakers. Nolan. David is on deck.
I just want to say a few things. I'm lucky enough to be one of the great grandchildren of Bubby. I'm speaking for my sister and I. I just wanted to tell a story to remember Bubby of. I remember she was probably around 93 in the early 90s. I remember her chasing me and my sister around, playing hide and go seek with us in her apartment. I remember we always played at that elevator and we ran through those halls. 93 chasing us around. I just look back now and I see how everything she did was to make us happy. I only hope I can be that great. I can be the great grandparent as she was. She's a huge part of my life. I love you, Bubby. I know you're looking down at all of us at this moment. I'll miss taking those 20s from your purse. And I'll be looking for those pennies on the ground. Thanks for loving me the way you did.
Nolan, you do all proud. David?
Okay, well, I'm the oldest, so I would be the favorite if it wasn't for Jessie and Brian, her favorite granddaughters. So 44 years I had a bubby. That's crazy. Who has a bubby for 44 years, right? It's a long time. She only gave me Jewish guilt for 43 of those years. That year when I was born till I was 1 was great. No guilt. A world without bubbies, not a world I really want to be in. We were all prepared for it, but here it is. We always thought it was coming a few times, right? And it never did. It's heart surgery. She'll be fine, and she was. Broken wrist. Oh, she'll be fine, and she was. Broken back. Oh, she'll bounce back, and she did. COVID. Oh, yeah, it didn't even dawn on me that she wouldn't make it past COVID. She did. Even this last time, I told Noli, she's in a coma, and he's like, "Oh, it's Bubby. She'll be fine." I said, "I don't think so, buddy." No, it's Bubby. She will be. I'm not even worried. She always did that, she was a superhero. Batman and Superman had nothing on her. She always recovered. She was the prototypical bubby. It's funny. We can all mix and match our speeches because we all had the same memories. We all had the same thoughts about her. You know, the Yiddish and the chicken soup and the guilt and the, you know, the unconditional love and the pride, and it was all the same. You could, you know, they broke the mold with her. She was a bubby. She was, you know, those same stories she would tell over and over again. The story of, you know, she said vegetable, and I was little, and I told her, it's not a table, bubby, it's vegetable. And she told me that story 100 million times in a row, and so we'll miss those. You know, she was, like I said yesterday, she was progressive. You know, she went with the times. You could tell her anything, any jokes, you know, unless you had an eyebrow ring, she was very accepting of anything and anything you did. You know, so, you know, they say nobody really dies until the last person who remembers them dies. And she's got all these great grandkids who will remember them. I know the things she did for Noli and Emmy, like Noli said a little bit, she was 93, she was on her hands and knees in her old apartment playing with them and hide and go seek, and they'd come and see these tchotchkes on her wall at the old apartment, and she'd take them, these little birds, and their rooms looked like a bubby's house when she was all done giving them stuff. Every time we'd come visit, she'd push more of these tchotchkes. All they do is look at it, and she's like, oh, you love this, take it with you. So it's those memories that she did for the kids, and I know that they will tell their kids and their grandkids about Bubby Fay for sure. So that's 2 generations at least she has covered of memories. You know, when I die, I know she'll be waiting for me, and, you know, she'll first say, are you okay? And then she'll say, why didn't you visit my gravestone enough? Your brother Brian visited me 10 times a year. He brought the kids. And it'll be great. I can't wait for that moment. Because I know I'll see her again, and it'll be wonderful. So, Bubby, we love you very much. You were the best babysitter I ever had, and we'll miss you very much.
Brian?
All right. I know what you're all thinking. Speed it up. Okay, I'm the last speaker. Favorite grandson. It's, you know, Jesse is really the favorite, right? Right. So, I am incredibly lucky. We all are incredibly lucky. I had my bubby until I was 41 years old. My father, my aunt, had their mother to their 70s. You don't see a lot of that, I feel like. And it only takes, you know, with age and maturity to realize that and understand just how lucky we all were to have her in our life. She was the toughest person I knew. I don't think there'll be anyone tougher than that. Her grit, her resolve, resilience, extreme will to survive and to build a new life, whether, you know, from Poland to Israel to the United States, always keep pushing forward. I shaved Bubby today for you. My pants are not torn, although it's a little snug, but I've dropped like 14 pounds. You'd love that. The food, I mean, what a great, incredible cook. I mean, I remember, your veal. I mean, come on, with that sauce and the soup, the vegetable dumpling. Come on, the best. Yes, a wicked sense of humor, like you mentioned. And David brought up the eyebrow ring. I did get an eyebrow ring probably when I was, I want to say 19, 20 maybe. And we're at IHOP. We will meet Bubby and Zadie for a late breakfast. Myself, David, Ryan. We sit in the booth. Bubby and Zadie are sitting next to each other. Bubby takes a look at me and just freaks out. What is that? What are you thinking? Oi, Fettner, what are we gonna do? And Zadie's looking at her, looking at me, cool, calm, looks at me, looks at her and says, he'll take it out. When he's ready, he'll take it out. Well, it got infected, so I definitely took it out. So she was definitely against eyebrow rings. However, when I came back from Israel, my first trip, and I said, Bobby, guess what? I got a tattoo. And she said, what? A tattoo? You can't get, what are you thinking? I said, no. Relax. Let me see it. So it was on my ankle. I pull up my pant leg and she says, oh, it's okay. It's a chai. Don't worry about it. That was Bobby. The eyebrow ring, visible. Hidden tattoo, that's a chai. It's okay. So as I think I mentioned this yesterday, but when she's in your life, she's a constant. It's like an everyday thing. And you don't really stop and think about how lucky you were, how amazing of a woman she is, and how much you're going to miss her. And now every day that she's gone, and it's crazy how this happens, it's only then when you really start to realize how special she was, how special she is. And my wish, and we talked about faith, right? She had amazing faith. My faith is that right now she's at a giant poker table with Zadie and her friends and family, playing poker, having coffee cake, mandel bread, coffee, and yakking it up, laughing, joking, gossiping, and talking about their grandkids. How she loved her grandkids, her great grandkids. I'll wrap it up, I promise. She always told the story about how Brian loved the Jewish prayers and was going to be a rabbi, and she'd make me do all the brachas in her kitchen in front of her friends, and she'd say, okay, Brian, that's enough. I say, no, I'm not done, Bubby. And I keep on going. And, she'd say, you would have been a rabbi, but your parents pulled you out of Salmon Schechter because David didn't want to be there anymore. And I was like, Bubby, I don't think that's how it really was. But no, it was. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not going to argue with you. And damn right, I'm not going to argue with her because that's an argument I'm going to lose. And then it went to my son Ari when she was at the Brookdale, and she loved to show off Ari and have him sing for her friends. Yeah, went from me to him. So she was wonderful. She'd love to tease her great grandkids too. They'd be eating a snack, and she'd say give me some of that. Come on, share with me. Take it. No, Bubby, come on, take it. There's a great picture. We have Brielle giving Bubby the side eye when she was trying to take some of her food. So, Bubby, we love you. I love you. I'll never forget you. I can assure you I'll make sure that my children never forget you, because I'll be putting pictures and videos of you constantly in their face. Rest easy. I know you're with Zadie right now. Finally, after almost 20 years, you're reunited. And that's what makes me so happy. I love you.
Thanks to each and every one of you for those beautiful words. And now it's Bobby's time to speak. And Bobby's going to say, don't cry for me because I died. Be happy because I lived. And thanks to each and every one of you for giving me the nachas and giving me the joy and carrying the torch the way I lit it. And your job, each and every one of the grandchildren and great children here today, is to continue to carry on the legacy that Bobby left. And thanks to each and every one of you for giving her the nachas that you did. Fear not death, we are destined to die. We share it with all who ever lived, with all who ever will be. Bewail the dead, hide not your grief, do not restrain your mourning, but remember that continuing sorrow is worse than death. When the dead are at rest, let the memory rest and be consoled when the soul departs. Seek not to understand what's too difficult for you. Search not for what is hidden for you. Be not overoccupied with what is beyond you, for you have been shown more than you can understand. As a drop of water in the sea, as a grain of sand on the shore, are a man's few days in eternity. The good things in life last for limited days, but a good name endures forever. O God, our Father, you redeem our souls from the grave. You are the rock of our salvation. Forsake us not in times of trouble and days of distress and desolation. Help us to endure, O Lord, for we have placed our hope in you. And let us say, Amen. Shaifa for our Lord's Kishaya, Baruch Tashavel Lemashen Sana. The dust returns to earth as it was, but the spirit returns unto God who gave it. May the soul of our beloved Fay Fay Fettner be bound up in the bond of life eternal. Send comfort, O Lord, to those who mourn. Grant strength to those whose burden is sorrow. O merciful Father, our refuge and our Redeemer. And let us say, Amen. It's customary that once we put Mom to our final resting place, to take a little earth and to put on a shovel of earth and to take the shovel itself and put it back in the bucket, symbolizing this is the only time in life that one person does another person a favor and they don't say thank you. Because usually in life when you do somebody a favor, what are the last words? Don't forget you owe me one. And this is the only time in life that you do somebody a favor and they can't say thank you. So the good Lord says, I say thank you for helping put my beloved child to rest. And it's customary to put a little holy earth, sprinkle, symbolizing that we all take a little bit of the holy earth with us. Oy Malia Vice, Chesed Chinam Lanu Tase, B'schus HaNekar Kisak Shiva Vase, Tzadik Chavarach HaVatzutamim, Erech HaPayim V'Mali Rachamim. Kamal Na B'chus Na LaVoise Born, and Kilachad, Oy Naslichas Barachmim, Tzadik At Adonoi Lahamis Alahadois, Asher V'yod Chol Pikoin Kodul Chois. Kalila Lachazach Reineinu Limchaz V'yanoi Necha Barachmim, Malenu B'chufaz, Gilacha Adoin, Arachmim Asli Chois. Adam ben Shana Hi Oy Elaf Shana Miyachem, Yisrael Oy Kuloi Oy Yeh, Avartai Lemes Memes Chayer. Orachuki Emes Dinoim, Shoyte Takovein, Oyim Shalat Odom Kashmar, Amibina V'Hakol Lishmoy Adoy Oyintenu. Yedanu Adonai Kitzedik Mishpatecho, Titzak V'Davrecho, B'Sizkom Shavtecho, Ben Harach Nisesh Achan Nida Shavtecho. Tzadik Ata Adonai Kiyoshem Mishpatecho, Dayan Emes, Shoyfet Emes, Shoyfet, Tzedek Be'emes, Borom Ayin Emes, Shekom Mishpatav, Tzedek Be'emes. Nefesh Mechai B'Yadecha, Tzedek Mola Yiminecha, Rachem HaPleita Soin Yadecha, V'Soin L'Malach Eref Yadecha. G'dol Ha'etzav Rav L'Liyah, Asher Necha B'Rucha Zahal Kol, Narkim B'Yad, Moses Lishmenacha, V'Chviv Olav, Ma'al Olav, V'Hagit Yosher Adonai Tzudim, V'Aglas Aboy. Adonai Nasam, Adonai Lokach Yishem, Adonai Mevarach, V'Urachom Yichapeh L'Boy V'Lo Yashkiz, V'Bol Hashem Apoy, V'Lo Yo'ir Kol Chamasoi. You have two lines, so if some of you want to go on that side, some of you want to go on this side, that'll be fine.
This does conclude the service on behalf of the family. Thank you.